منذ عام 2018 في إطار
2018 within the framework of the concern given by the state to the issue of water and putting it on top of the political agenda as one of the elements of social, economic, sustainable development. The actual developments of climate change that cause disturbances in the water natural cycle had a direct influence on the amount of drinking fresh water available for usage, and the whole world has witnessed an increase in the extreme weather events like increase of temperature, rainfall, torrential rains, as well as winds and the impact on coasts through hurricanes and tornadoes. And this made countries all over the world confront big challenges that necessitate cooperation between them all to look for urgent solutions to avoid the impacts of these dangers. And the slogan of Cairo Water Week is water at the heart of climate action, with the objective of discussing the impact of climate change on water sector, as well as confronting the climate challenges and their impacts on water sector. And this event is considered to be a step on the road towards COP27 that would be hosted by Sharm el-Sheikh next month. In light of the world and regional attention to the procedures of adaptation and mitigation of climate change. Distinguished guests, over the previous editions of Cairo Water Week, the week has become an international podium for discussion, as well as support all people working in the field of water on the regional and international levels. And it develops a year after the other through cooperation and coordination with the partners from regional and international organizations, as well as the different ministries and authorities, to make this event a success. And in the name of figures, Cairo Water Week this year, in its 5th edition, has more than 1,000 actual participants, official delegates and organizations working on water and environment, represented in 16 ministerial delegates, 54 official delegates in cooperation with 66 international organizations, in addition to the presence of more than 400 experts and scientists in the field of water and environment. Distinguished guests, Cairo Water Week and the climate conference COP27 are considered to be a golden opportunity for presenting the challenges of the African continent in the field of water, especially in light of climate change, so that these challenges would acquire the international needed attention, as well as the provision of the needed funding and support to this field. And in this context, the African Development Bank is one of the main development partners in the continent who worked on water for about 4 decades, represented in development actions as well as achievements in different fields to achieve comprehensive, sustainable economic development that would be reflected on the livelihood of citizens and population in the African continent. It's worth noting that the African Development Bank Group has strong relations with the government of Egypt, as the history of this relation dates back to 1964, when Egypt acceded the African Development Bank as a member state in the region, and it became the 22nd member among the 54 members of the organization. And now Egypt is the 3rd biggest member state in the African Development Bank Group, and the governors of the bank selected Egypt to host the annual meetings of the African Development Bank Group from 2022 up till 2027. Distinguished guests, will start now the opening speeches with Dr. Best Dumford, Deputy Chairman of the African Development Bank for Human and Environmental Development Department, and it will be delivered on her behalf by Mr. Abderrahim Diaw from North Africa region.
Your Excellency, Professor Dr. Hani Sewilam, Minister for Water Resources.
Professor Dr. Hani, distinguished guests, the scientists and experts, Mr. Sameh Shukri, the Minister of the Arab Republic of Egypt. I would like to thank those all who contributed to holding this conference. The Minister of Irrigation and Water Resources in Pakistan, the ministers from different countries, as well as the members of international organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me pleasure to speak on behalf of the African Development Bank Group. Let me share the appreciation to the Arab Republic of Egypt and the African Bank for Development for this important event. We need to remind ourselves of the importance of water in our life. Water is important as it contributes to biodiversity and the protection of ecosystem and the water cycle in general. And this is reflected in the extreme weather events we are witnessing, like the rise in in temperature, as well as the torrential rains, the floods, the drought, and the damages caused to the different communities. Ladies and gentlemen, it's critical and important to put water at the center of our policies and action and deal with adaptation and mitigation of climate change. And let's talk about number of challenges we are facing today. 1 out of 3 countries in the world are being impacted adversely by climate change, and we find that a lot of people are suffering from the basic sanitation services according to the different programs. And climate change also poses a large fraction of the population to face water scarcity. And COVID-19 also led to more challenges and difficulties to the water sector, and made also them more subject to shocks. And this necessitates, of course, more cooperation and more support to deal with the impacts of COVID-19, as well as support the most vulnerable groups and communities. The resilience of the water systems is so important to achieve sustainable development. As we can see in Central Africa, water is unsafe due to the lack of water quality, as well as the increase of floods and drought, and the vulnerability of these communities in dealing with changes. Drought, of course, negatively affects agriculture. Without adaptation, climate change and their influences on vital sectors would be aggravated, and this would also negatively influence the GDP, that it might reach 11.7% in the sub-Saharan area in the African continent. 30 million in these areas are suffering from water scarcity and the danger of drought, according to the report of 2021. On the other hand, there are a lot of dangers regarding the loss of lives, services, and destabilization of countries. And this would lead also to more losses, and losses reached about 100% of the GDP, according to the report of 2021 of the International Meteorology Organization. And we know what's happening in sub-Saharan area, in Africa in particular, as thousands are suffering from displacement, and due to the global warming, we see an increase in the dangers facing the water sector, and we need to deal with these changes that negatively impacts water security. One of the lessons learned, we need to put the water at the heart of climate change actions, because climate change affects the water resources and doubles the level of risks. The repercussions and the social impacts need more investments in the water systems, and we need to work on infrastructure and databases. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we need to join hands and to partner with the Adaptation Center, as well as the different organizations working on adaptation and the programs of water sector to achieve conformity between the policies, climate change actions, as well as mobilizing the funding needed. And there should be the national designated contributions through Paris Agreement to build the capacity and put priorities to face climate change and make use of technology to enhance the mobilization of resources. And despite the high level of commitments and discussions, we need to provide the funding needed to reduce carbon dioxide and the emissions in Africa. 5% of the funding of climate are for focusing on adaptation and mitigation, and the small part is focusing on water, and we need to change this. We need to increase the annual investments in the water sector and accelerate them to achieve the climate actions and to support the transformation of the national economies. The African Development Bank is seeking to provide financing for climate actions with about $20 billion, $4 billion annually, and the water sector is one of the vital sectors that should be at the heart of our policies and measures regarding water, and we need to enhance our efforts to face climate change and design programs to deal with climate change and to evaluate risks. The African Development Bank is also seeking to use different elements to provide the support needed by the countries. And here I would like to emphasize our commitment to enhancing the efforts of confronting climate change in Africa. Thank you.
شكرا جزيلا السيد عبد
Thank you,
الرحمن
Mr.
دياو
Abdurrahman Diaw,
باسم بنك التنمية الأفريقية للشؤون
speaking
الزراعية
on
والتنمية
behalf
البشرية
of
والاجتماعية.
the African Development Bank. Distinguished
لا يخفى
guests,
على أحد
we are
تعدد
all
التحديات
aware
التي
that we
تؤثر
are
على الصحة
facing multiple
البشرية
challenges
والحياة
influencing
ككل على
the
كوكب
health
الأرض،
of humanity
ومنها
and the
الارتفاع
livelihood on the
المتزايد
planet,
في
one of
معدلات
which
التدهور
is
البيئي
the increase
وتضاعف
of
أعداد السكان
environment
حول العالم،
deterioration and land
وما تمثله هذه
degradation.
العوامل
And
الضغوط على
these are
استهلاك
stresses
المياه
on
والغذاء،
water and food
والتي وصلت
consumption,
لحد
and it
الشح
reached the
والجفاف
level
المائي،
of drought and
إضافة
water
لأزمة
scarcity,
توفير
in
الغذاء في
addition
العديد
to the
من
problem of
الدول
food
حاليا.
security facing a number of
وبحسب
countries
بيان
right now.
الأمم
And
المتحدة
according
الصادر
to the United
في
Nations
مارس
report
الماضي من
issued
هذا
last
العام، أنه
March,
تم إحراز تقدم ملحوظ
a
في
progress
التصدي
has been
للتحديات
achieved
أمام
in
صحة
confronting the
الإنسان
challenges facing
والحيوان
human
وسلامة
and
النظام
animal health,
الأيكولوجي،
as well
ما
as
شجع
the
على إنشاء ما
ecological
يعرف
system, which
بالشراكة
encourages
الرباعية الأممية
achieving the
بهدف تحقيق نهج
tripartite
الصحة الواحد
partnership to
لكوكب الأرض
achieve
ككل،
one health
نحو
system
مساعي
for the
التمكين
whole
الاقتصادي
planet,
والحد
as well as
من
focusing on
الفقر.
economic empowerment and alleviating
السادة
poverty.
الحضور،
Ladies and
متحدثنا
gentlemen,
القادم
our next
شغل منصب
speaker
أمين
assumed the
الهيئة
post
العامة
of the
للبيئة في
Secretary
حكومة ليبيا
General
طرابلس،
of Environment
وانتخب رئيسا
in
للمؤتمر
Tripoli,
الوزاري
Libya, and he
الأفريقي
was
المعني بالبيئة،
selected in the
وانضم
Ministerial
في
Council
عام
for Environment in
2007
Africa. And
إلى
in the year
الاتحاد
2007, he
الأفريقي
joined the
كمدير
African Union
للموارد
as the head
البشرية
of Human
والعلوم
Resources,
والتكنولوجيا،
Science and
وأصبح
Technology
مديرا
Department, and
للإدارة
became the
وإدارة
manager
الموارد
of the department
البشرية
and
بعد
the
ذلك.
manager of Human
كما
Resources
أشرف
Department
خلال
afterwards.
مسيرته المهنية
And
في الاتحاد
during his
الأفريقي على
career in
إنشاء
the
عدد
African Union,
من
he
المبادرات
supervised the
والمؤسسات
implementation of
الإفريقية
number of
الفريدة،
initiatives and African
وتولى
unique
إدارتها،
organizations, and he managed
وعمل
them.
قبل انضمامه
And
إلى
before
المنظمة
joining
مستشارا
African Union, he
في
worked as an
مجالي
advisor in the
المناصرة
fields of
والشراكات العالمية،
advocacy and
كما تم
international
تعيينه
partnerships.
مسؤولا
And he
رفيع
was
المستوى
appointed
في
as a
اجتماعات
senior
مجموعة
official
ال20
in the meetings
ورؤساء
of
بنوك التنمية
G20 and
متعددة
the
الأطراف.
chairman of the development
متحدثنا القادم
multilateral
في
banks.
كلمة
Our
منظمة
next
الأغذية
speaker
والزراعة
on
في
behalf
منطقة
of
الشرق الأدنى
FAO
وشمال
in
إفريقيا
the Near East
يلقيها
and North
سعادة السيد
Africa
عبد
region
الحكيم
would be delivered by
الواعر
Mr. Abdel
مساعد
Hakim
المدير
Al-Wa'ir,
العام
the assistant
والممثل
to the
الإقليمي.
general manager of FAO and the regional representative of FAO.
أستاذ الدكتور
Dr. Hani Swalem, the Minister of Irrigation and Water Resources in the Arab Republic of Egypt, Mr. Sameh Shukri, the Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Arab Republic of Egypt and the Chairperson of COP27, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It gives me honor to attend with you today the opening of the 5th edition of Cairo Water Week. And I would like to congratulate His Excellency the Minister of Irrigation and Water Resources in the Arab Republic of Egypt for hosting this event for the 5th successive year. Cairo Water Week, after 5 years, has become a main event that attracts different organizations and institutions that play an active role in the issues of water, sustainable development in the Arab region and in other surrounding areas. And FAO is honored to be a main partner to the Minister of Irrigation and Water Resources since launching the first edition of Cairo Water Week in 2018. And on the regional level, this annual event is considered to be an opportunity for communication with the civil society, the practitioners, the academia, the decision makers in the Arab region and the whole world to discuss the issues of water. And this event is an opportunity to discuss scientific, technical ideas, to draft the policies and find solutions to respond to water challenges as well as those of food security. Ladies and gentlemen, Cairo Water Week this year is a special event as it comes few weeks before COP27. That is hosted by Egypt next month in Sharm el-Sheikh. No strange that the organizers of this event has selected the title Water at the Heart of Climate Action for a long period. We did not focus enough on water while discussing climate change, despite the strong link between water and climate change, and in particular adaptation to climate change. The Egyptian presidency worked on preparing for COP27, and FAO intends to be a main partner to the government of Egypt in a number of important initiatives, including, for example, the initiative of food and agriculture for sustainable transition that accelerates adaptation in the field of agriculture, as well as the initiative of adaptation on water and resilience. And we expect to launch these two initiatives during COP27. And due to these elements, Cairo Water Week would be an opportunity to put water on the list of the agenda of COP27. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, FAO puts the issue of water and climate on top of its agenda in Near East and North Africa region, and for over 8 years the initiative of water scarcity has supported the countries in this area to confront these issues and to deal with food security and sustainable integrated management of water resources. Through the portal of water, we are discussing the sciences and policies regarding water and agriculture under the support of the Arab Ministerial Council for Water, emanating from the Arab Agricultural Organization and the League of Arab States in 2019. This joint process between the governments led to adopting Cairo Declaration that invited conformity between policies in agriculture and water sectors. And before that, at the beginning of this year, there was a joint meeting between the ministers of water and agriculture that adopted the guidelines to improve the methods of allocating water for agriculture. And I would like to announce that Cairo Water Week will host for the 4th year successively the meeting of the Joint Technical Senior Committee for Water and Agriculture. And in this meeting, senior officials from the Ministries of Water and Agriculture in the Arab region would participate to discuss the technical issues and the allocation of water for the agricultural sector and providing advice in this context. We support a dialogue on the regional level, and we support also in the meantime the implementation on the country level. And right now we are closely working with 4 countries, Egypt, Jordan, Palestine, Tunisia, to start implementing the guidelines to improve the methods of allocating water for agriculture. Ladies and gentlemen, due to the difficulties and the crises we faced over the past year, starting with COVID-19 and now the war in the Black Sea, our worries are increasing regarding lack of food security worldwide, and with the increase of food imports in the Arab region due to water scarcity, the region is more vulnerable to disturbances related to the food world markets. And this made a lot of our countries reconsider their strategies regarding food security. And as we all know, in this region, food and water are directly linked to each other. Thus, it's so important for countries in the region to do reasonable, realistic assessment for water resources and how this would be in line with the strategy of food security. On the country level, the organization, through the support from the Swedish government, is building the capacities of the countries for strategic planning for water and focusing on the methodologies of integrated water management, like water accounting, water productivity, collecting data and their analysis, and the relation between water, energy and environment. And thus we talk about water desalination, harvesting waterfall, and these are new strategies that we need to make use of, as well as making use of the new technologies and the new innovations. And these solutions and innovations should be made available to all farmers and water users, especially the most vulnerable groups, to secure that no one would be left behind. Ladies and gentlemen, FAO is committed to supporting countries in the region and supporting them in their work to achieve their food and water security. And Cairo Water Week is a podium for sharing the methods of accelerating progress towards achieving sustainable development goals. In particular, Goal 2 on alleviating poverty, and the 6th goal, the provision of fresh water and sanitation for everybody. At the end, I wish you all fruitful discussions during the days of this conference to achieve economic, social, sustainable development in the region. Peace be upon you. Thank you very much, Mr. Abdel Hakim El-Waer, the assistant to the manager of FAO and the regional representative of FAO in the Near East and North Africa region. The next speaker was appointed by the Dutch Ministerial Council as the first envoy for water affairs in the year 2015, as he was the ambassador of water, and he enjoys a strong record of achievements in the field of water, urban sustainable development, and he assumed a number of international posts, one of which is the member of the senior board for water established by the Secretary General of the UN, Ban Ki-moon, and it changed the awareness of the world about water. The next speaker is Mr. Hing Hoving, the Dutch Senior Envoy for Water Affairs.
Always exciting to be.
I'm always glad to be in Cairo between this galaxy of scientists and participants
who discuss different aspects of water. And this is not something usual. Ladies and gentlemen, first I would like to thank the government of the Arab Republic of Egypt for organizing this great conference in its 5th edition, paving the way for COP27 that would be held in Sharm el-Sheikh next month. This is an important moment, and we need to try to manage the affairs of water in a good manner. Water is related to everything in life, but unfortunately it is not well managed, and we all know that there are a lot of complications we need to deal with. We need to change behaviors and to make sound decisions that would serve water and climate in general. There are a lot of things that might help us, and we need all to work on the same objectives and ambitions. We know that if water is polluted, then this would divide us all. That's why we need all to work for the interest of protecting our water, protecting our environment and planet. We need to invest together and we need to cooperate here. For example, in Egypt, there is a cooperation in all aspects of life. Men, women, children, they should all work together. Besides, of course, the formal and informal cooperation and increasing the investments in the field of water. Water is one of the human rights, because billions of people all over the world need water. They need water for their livelihood and for everything. And without water, there is no food and there is nothing, in fact, on this planet. Consequently, we need to deal with the problem of water collectively, scientifically. And we should not be in silos, but rather work as one team in finding the solutions. And we can do that despite our borders. We can do it because we are all working for a common interest, and we are all on the same boat, and we adopt the principle, no one is left behind. There is a saying that water is in a crisis, so we need to find solutions to this crisis, and to do so we need this institutional collaboration. And on the political level, we in Netherlands are cooperating with other countries in this field. For the first time in 15 years, we are going to focus in the UN conferences on discussing this matter, water, and we need to invest in this important event. This event should be a turning point for all of us. Either we do it now or we would never be able to do it. And in this field, we are about to come up with the final results so that each individual would enjoy his right to water. And we need to hold on the idea that water is the foundation of life.
And we need all to work together, the youth, the elderly, the experts and non-experts, men and women, and all segments of the community. So we put the youth as part of our plan for the Sustainable Development Goals and attaining them by 2030. COP27 would be a unique opportunity to discuss further these issues, and in the coming years a lot of events and conferences would be held to discuss this issue. Water should be the main point in all these conferences, as we need to find solutions. We know, of course, that another very important objective is mitigating climate change, and also the management of wastes, the reduction of greenhouse emissions, as well as the reduction of global warming. Half the countries of the world are facing also problems pertaining to sanitation, and this negatively reflects on all sectors of the community. Things cannot change unless we focus on energy sources, taking into consideration that for every dollar spent, we need to take into consideration the issue of water. Cairo Water Week is a suitable opportunity to prepare for COP27. We know that 90% of the natural disasters influence water resources and the per capita share of water, and we have a few weeks before COP27, and we still have challenges to deal with. Climate change is increasing and it is destroying a lot of things, and there are problems related to supply chains that are endangering the lives of millions of people. So it's prime time to invest in a better future. Investing in water means investing in a better future. The world is under a threat and it is waiting for efforts to be exerted to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, and we need your support, and we need all to convene together to achieve our objectives and the objectives of COP27. Countries have working together to achieve these objectives, and I wish that when we convene again in 2023 we will have the agenda of working on water, and all the countries would cooperate in rationalization of water usage and emphasizing using it optimally, and from here we can join efforts and cooperate, as we have no other way but coordination and collaboration. We need also to share best practices, ideas, solutions, and everything that would support us. Either we continue through innovations and thinking out of the box, either that or we won't survive, and we are able to do this and find solutions for food security. I would like to thank all the partners for their commitment and their support. In Pakistan also, they would work up till 2023. And last but not least, I would like to thank Egypt, the president, the government, for putting water at the heart of COP27. And then from COP27 up till the United Nations to find strong solutions to the problems of water. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Hingo Bink, the Dutch Senior Envoy for Water Affairs. Distinguished guests, in the year 2018, the General Assembly of the United Nations announced the Decade of Action for Water, and it will last up till 2028 to promote water as a main pillar for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals of 2030. And this decade is followed up through scientific, regional, national processes, and Cairo Water Week is one of the international events selected in this context, as the outputs of Cairo Water Week in its 4th edition is part of the periodical review report developed by Netherlands and Tajikistan. And now the speech of Mr. Jum'a Abdallah Jofker, the Minister of Water Resources in Tajikistan, and it will be delivered on his behalf by Mr. Jamshid Swimzoda, the first deputy to the Minister of Energy and Water Resources in Tajikistan.
Thank you. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies,
Honorable Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished ministers, ambassadors, I'm speaking to you in this important meeting, and I seize this opportunity to express appreciation and thanks to the government of the Arab Republic of Egypt for organizing Cairo Water Week and for their hospitality. We are still recovering from the impact of the pandemic COVID-19, and unfortunately crises are coming. And Europe is facing also high temperatures and high temperature waves during summer. And on this part of the planet, we are facing also other problems. We can see what's happening in South America. And the water is the reason for all these challenges. And it can contribute to the solutions also. We have a main job, and it is protecting water resources and the use of water in fields that would mitigate climate change. In Cairo Water Week, we will discuss a lot of issues. And we need to discuss all these topics, as water should be the foundation of all policies and decisions worldwide. Water is facing a lot of challenges, and during the past 20 years we worked to find satisfying solutions to the problem of water. And now we should not stop here, and we need to further develop our action. We know that water is the essence of life. So
It's so important to adopt the decision of the General Assembly of the United Nations regarding the world commitment to the issue of water. And this should be in parallel to all the decisions on the Sustainability Agenda 2030. And in March next year, the whole world would convene in New York during the water conference that would be held in the United States in the UN to implement the plans to deal with the issue of water and its problems. We know that in this conference everybody would attend, the scientists, the experts, the practitioners, the officials, and it is so important that we make this event an influential one. Before there was a meeting that was held about water, and now we have 8 billion world population, and water resources did not double. Unfortunately, they have reduced greatly, and this of course influences climate. In my country, over the past 30 years, we lost a lot of water and water resources, and this led to decrease of per capita share. And we held a lot of conferences in Netherlands and neighboring countries to find a solution and to come up with a vision for the integrated water management system. And this proves that worldwide we need all to take concrete steps to deal with the issue of water. We invested in a lot of efforts and we worked on all levels, and we can say that there are some successes achieved in this field. And we need to realize that the important step in the conference is the cooperation between all ministries and sectors. And this should be discussed during Cairo Water Week, as this makes cooperation stronger. And we will see this leading us to attaining sustainable development goals. The important thing is how can we make the recommendations that we come up with by the end of this event concrete, and we would make a change and help us put maps for dealing with the issue of water, and how the countries would be committed to this objective. So we need cooperate with funding institutions, organizations and governments to be committed to these duties. Tajikistan in this field is exerting its utmost efforts to achieve these goals, and we want to be able to achieve success without cooperation with other countries. We cannot do it on our own, and we are looking forward also to COP27 that would help further cooperation, coordination between different countries, and we invite you all to join our vision and our mission, and I hope that we would support each other so that the world would get back to the moment when we had water abundance to achieve sustainable development goals. Thank you for your due listening. Thank you very much, Mr. Jamshid Swinzoda. On behalf of the Minister of Energy and Water Resources in Tajikistan. Distinguished guests, in light of Egypt hosting this year COP27 on climate change, Cairo Water Week is keen on integration with this important event, as the sessions of Cairo Water Week would include the sessions in preparation for COP27, the most important of which is the session under the title The Preparation, the Road to COP27 2022. The next speaker is a diplomat, has various experiences in a number of Egyptian embassies and its diplomatic missions abroad since he joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and he was the best example of the strong diplomat in defending the stance of Egypt, and now he is the chairperson of COP27 on climate change. Mr. Sameh Shukri, the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
In
the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Mr. Hani Suelam, the Minister of Irrigation and Water Resources, Your Excellencies, the Ministers, the guests of Egypt, I would like to welcome you to Cairo Water Week in its 5th edition, held this year under the slogan, Water at the Heart of Climate Action, at a very important moment, as it comes as part of a series of actions on the path of two main events on the agenda of water and climate change. The first is the 27th session of COP, known as COP27, hosted by Egypt in Sharm el-Sheikh next month. And I am honored to be its chairperson. And the second is the UN Water Conference, expected to be held in March 2023. And this is the event that comes after 46 years since the last UN Water Conference. Ladies and gentlemen, it's known that our world today is facing increasing challenges regarding the provision of its water needs, the source of life on this planet. And the most important challenges are overpopulation as well as climate change that can destabilize the hydrological cycle, as well as preventing human activities. And also there are unilateral actions regarding water resources that violate the international laws, which usurps the water resources. And due to the fact that Egypt is one of the countries facing water scarcity and is more influenced by water challenges, in particular with the fact that it is the country facing high levels of drought, then it has focused on achieving the 6th goal of Sustainable Development Goals, the goal on water, through Egypt's Vision 2030 and the strategic plan for managing water resources up till 2037. In parallel to that, Egypt is seeking to enhance the international water agenda due to its belief in the importance of human coordination and cooperation to deal with water challenges. In this context, Egypt was one of the first countries that worked on
UN Water Conference 2023, as it was keen on working in both New York and Geneva through coordination with the coordinators of the conference, Netherlands and Tajikistan, as well as other countries to submit initiatives like the regional initiative for water launched by the UN, and it was joined by 168 countries, as well as the Statement of Right to Water issued by the Human Rights Council, and 70 countries joined it, in addition to the initiative of introducing the post of UN Envoy for Water, and it was joined by 144 countries. In addition to launching Geneva Dialogue for Water with the aim of coordinating on the level of the United Nations, as well as launching the Alliance of Water and Climate for data exchange. Within the framework of COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, a round table will be held on water security, and in the framework of the Egyptian presidency for COP27, 1 day would be allocated for water, as it is expected to launch the initiative AWARE to move for adaptation and capacity building on resilience in the field of water, and this aims at achieving 3 objectives. First, limiting water waste and developing its resources and the means of acquiring it. Secondly, finding agreed on policies for climate adaptation pertinent to water and putting it under implementation. And the third is enhancing the link between procedures of dealing with climate change adaptation with the aim of achieving the Agenda of 2030 for sustainable development. And we'll work on achieving these objectives through a number of paths, including finding innovation, capacity building, sharing experience. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, Egypt intensified its efforts to discuss the water and climate agenda in a multilateral framework and in international water frameworks, and Cairo Water Week represents a step to come up with the outcomes of these consultations and introduce implemental agendas, be it in COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh or UN Water Conference 2023. I invite you during our meetings over this week to work on finding a specific vision that would be a call launched for Cairo Water Week to enhance our joint action for this important international conference. And we're looking forward to discussing human right to water with its different dimensions, including the challenges facing desert lands facing water scarcity. I wish also that your discussions would cover the relation between active cross-border cooperation according to international law and regional integration, peace and security, and the optimum ways to benefit from technology and innovation, as well as provide the funding for environmentally sustainable projects to achieve the integrated management of water resources. Finally, I wish you fruitful discussions during Cairo Water Week, and we look forward to receiving you in COP27 next month in Sharm el-Sheikh to work together to move from the phase of pledges to the phase of implementation, and to put water, the source of life, at the heart of climate action to protect our present and the future of our sons and grandsons. Thank you. Distinguished guests, Cairo Water Week in its 5th edition would have a scientific conference as we received 131 researches and working papers from the Egyptian research institutes to be presented over 5 sessions. The next speaker assumed a number of posts, the last of which was the post of the academic director of water engineering department and the manager of the department of water in Aachen University, and he received a number of donations and implemented a number of water successful projects in Egypt, and he got a number of awards, the last of which is the best prototype out of 19 European countries for the use of sea water and using renewable energy for food production, and he will be receiving this award in COP27. Dr. Hani Swaylam, the Minister of Irrigation and Water Resources in Egypt. Thank you, Mr. Minister Sameh Shukri, for the speech and for the support. Distinguished ministers, heads of delegates, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, peace be upon you. First of all, I would like to welcome you all to Cairo Water Week and its 5th edition, and it's considered this year to be a preparation for water activities in COP27. And before starting my speech, I would like to send my condolences for the death of one of the organizers of this event, Engineer Ahmed Hussein, who died yesterday in an accident. The colleague Ahmed Hussein was one of the distinguished members of the ministry who was devoted to his work, and may he rest in peace, and our condolences to his family. And let us stand for a moment in silence for our colleague Ahmed Hussein. Distinguished guests, Cairo Water Week gives us the opportunity to meet our brothers from different countries and organizations working on water to unify our visions and efforts regarding the integration of water in climate change actions. And this reflects the importance of water and climate change as a vital file for the state of Egypt and its efforts to cooperate with the partners in this field. Egypt is trying through organizing Cairo Water Week to enhance cooperation, scientific technological exchange, and raising the awareness about the issues of water, as well as encouraging innovation to face the challenges of water sector as it is related to our lives. It's worth noting that Cairo Water Week, since its first edition, has adopted a number of activities regarding issues pertaining to water sustainable development, with the objective of creating community awareness as well as the participation of all segments in the events, starting with school students up till the politicians, scientists, and practitioners. Ladies and gentlemen, Egypt, since the dawn of history, was keen on inculcating the importance of the River Nile in the hearts of all Egyptians. So they considered it to be sacred, and they undertook steps to manage it and to make sure that it would keep giving them what they need and would reduce their risks. And the Egyptians followed into the footsteps of their grandfathers through the integrated management of water resources and protecting them to achieve sustainable development goals in a way that would meet the different needs of all sectors in light of the challenges that make Egypt suffer from water poverty. Egypt mainly depends on the River Nile. that comes from outside the Egyptian borders, and this limits the ability to develop this water resource. Thus, the state is trying to reduce the gap between the water resources available as well as the increasing needs through water recycle that is considered to be 33% of the total renewable water resources, in addition to importing virtual water in the form of food products to overcome the gap, and this is about 65% of our water resources. Climate change is considered to be an additional challenge due to the increase of our water needs because of the increase of temperature as well as expected increase of sea level, which would lead to the flooding of a lot of agricultural lands in North Delta, as well as the degradation of underground water due to the seepage of the seawater with aquifers and the reservoirs, and this needs effort to adapt to climate change as well as implement an integrated plan for protecting the Egyptian coasts and in particular the River Nile Delta. And that's why we selected the topic of this edition of Cairo Water Week to be water at the heart of climate action, to reflect these challenges and to call on the international community to put the file of the adaptation of water sector to climate change as a priority for all institutions and organizations working in the field of climate change. The issue of climate change has become one of the most important issues facing the human being in the modern age due to the fact that it influences his lifestyle and his future plans. Ladies and gentlemen, countries, especially in Africa, developing countries and some Arab countries are suffering from water scarcity, poverty, lack of water resources, lack of energy, and not having the technical capabilities capable of producing modern technologies, in addition to lacking the technical groups capable of dealing with these challenges, in addition to lack of funding for the sector of water and the absence of mechanisms supporting the transnational regional cooperation. Thus, from the heart of Cairo, we called upon UN so that the mid-term review report and the conference on water that would be held in New York 2023 would come up with solutions to deal with this challenge. And in this context, I would like to announce a Cairo call for action with the target of encouraging all countries to accelerate the implementation of sustainable development goals, and it would be the starting point for developing an initiative for water scarcity to be developed to UN mid-term review conference 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, water scarcity makes the government exert its utmost efforts to achieve the demands of sustainable development for about 105 million Egyptians living on the land of Egypt. Thus, Cairo is calling for developing a specific program to target the countries suffering from water scarcity, to mobilize international efforts to support these countries in confronting water scarcity in light of challenges resulting from climate change. And in this context, the state pledged to work on limiting the impact of climate change on water sector, and the Ministry of Irrigation and Water Resources is implementing a number of major projects in the field of water, as they are rehabilitating thousands of kilometers of lakes so that they can do their main function, which is providing water to the farmers with the amount, quality, and quantity needed at the suitable time for the crop. And also major projects in the field of wastewater treatment was established, like Bahr al-Baqar drainage wastewater with the capacity of 5.6 million cubic meters per day to turn the lands in Central and North Sinai into productive green lands. And also a treatment plant in Al Hammam is established with 7.5 million cubic meters capacity as part of the New Delta project. And all these projects would reclaim new agricultural lands based on agricultural treated wastewater, and this is an example of the integrated management of water in Egypt and a program of a project that provides thousands of job opportunities. In addition to that, the state is implementing a number of challenges to put the issue of water on top of the agenda of climate change, be it through Cairo Water Week or COP27 and the Water Conference held under the umbrella of COP27, with the aim of finding solutions to mitigation and adaptation to climate change and developing future plans to reduce emissions and provide the needed funding for the mitigation and adaptation projects. And Egypt is presenting an international initiative for adaptation in the sector of water during the conference in cooperation with a number of Egyptian ministries and international partners to build the capacity of water usage through rationalizing its usage, as well as agreeing on policies and cooperation mechanisms in all water activities, and the nexus between water and climate agenda to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Ladies and gentlemen, in this context, enhancing cooperation in the field of cross-border water is one of the priorities of the state in managing its water resources. The bilateral and regional cooperation with the Nile Basin countries is a due priority. Egypt is supporting the development projects in the Nile Basin countries through development projects that would directly support the communities, like the wells, removing weeds from lakes, waterfall harvesting, in addition to building the human capacity. On the regional level, Egypt is presiding over a regional important project under the Presidential Initiative for Developing the Infrastructure in Africa, supported by President Abdel Fattah Sisi, to establish a navigation line between Victoria Lake and the Mediterranean Sea. The project supports economic integration in the Nile Basin through increasing trade, exchange, and tourism, as well as the transport of passengers and cargo. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end, I would like to emphasize that I am glad to be here with you today in this event, and I thank you all for your participation, and I wish all success to this conference, and I wish it would come up with binding pledges to all parties for regional and international cooperation to unify efforts to confront the negative impacts of climate change on water sector. And I would like to thank all the partners and countries for supporting the water initiative to be launched on the sidelines of COP27. And I would like to announce that Egypt will host the Center of Water and Adaptation to Climate Change, and it would be the first of its kind in Africa as one of the regional centers for this initiative. Thank you. Distinguished guests, the state has achieved a lot of achievements in a lot of sectors under the leadership of President Abdel Fattah Sisi, the President of the Arab Republic of Egypt, one of which is water resources and irrigation sector that is considered to be one of the most important sectors. It is directly influencing the citizen. And we all realize the continuous efforts exerted by President Sisi over years for overcoming what Egypt is facing and to adopt the modern system in dealing with the challenges and solving the root causes of any problem. And now a recorded speech from President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the President of the Arab Republic of Egypt. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, Your Excellencies, the ministers, heads of delegates, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I am honored to talk to you today at the opening of the 5th edition of Cairo Water Week organized by the Arab Republic of Egypt. And it became an international and an effective regional podium for supporting discussion on water that is increasingly becoming important, in particular of the efforts of enhancing international peace, security, and sustainable development. Cairo Water Week has the title Water at the Heart of Climate Action. And this comes in light of international discussions aiming at intensifying international action regarding the issues of water and climate change up to COP27 that would be held in Sharm el-Sheikh next month. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, water since the beginning of life on the earth has become the source of life and the main pillar for civilization development, and the increasing development of modern civilization has increased the stress on the available water resources up to the limit that humanity is at a critical moment where a number of countries are confronting increasing challenges to provide the basic needs of water. And food has become the main aspect of water usage worldwide. And in light of the expectations of increasing the food needs by 60% by the year 2050, it is clear that there is no differentiation between the challenge of water and the challenge of food security. And climate change has come to aggravate this double-edged challenge, and in particular in the countries suffering from water scarcity, in a way that might lead to dangerous negative impact on peace and security on the regional and international levels. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Egypt's destiny was to be at the heart of these three limited related challenges: the challenge of food security, water security, and climate change. Egypt is one of the countries that are highly suffering from drought worldwide, and it depends exclusively on the River Nile for the renewable water resources, and 80% of these water resources go to the agriculture sector, the source of livelihood for more than 60 million people, half the population of Egypt. And in light of this unique water scarcity status, water resources in Egypt are unable to meet the needs of its population. Despite adopting a policy for rationalizing water usage through the reuse of agriculture wastewater in a way that increased the total capacity of its usage in Egypt to be one of the highest records in Africa, and the repercussions of climate change led to aggravating the impact of water scarcity on agricultural lands in Egypt that is influenced by the negative impacts of climate change, be it in the borders of Egypt or in the river basin, as Egypt, according to all these givens, has the necessity to adopt a comprehensive approach to deal successfully with the challenges of food and water challenges and the related climate challenges,
باعتبار ذلك مسألة
as
أمن
this
قومي
is
لمصر.
the issue of national security
الصعيد
for
الوطني
Egypt. On the
انتهجت
national
الدولة
level, the state
الاستراتيجية
adopted
الوطنية
the national
لإدارة
strategy
الموارد
for the management
التي
of
تهدف
water
لتوفير
resources with the
مياه
target
الشرب
of providing
وتحسين
drinking
نوعيتها
water and improving its
وترشيد
quality,
الموارد
as well
المائية
as rationalizing
وتنميتها
the water resources
بكافة
and
الوسائل
develop them
المتاحة.
with all available
كما
means.
تبنت مصر
Egypt has
سياسة
also
للأمن
adopted a
الغذائي
policy for food
توازن
security
بين الإنتاج
that
المحلي
strikes the balance between
والواردات
local production
الغذائية.
and food imports.
وقد تمكنت مصر
And
بفضل
we
ذلك
were able, thanks to
الحفاظ على
that,
أمنها
to
المائي
protect
والغذائي
our food and water
في ظل
security
أزمات
in
عالمية
light of
وإقليمية.
international and regional
وعلى الصعيد
crises.
الإقليمي
On the regional
كانت مصر
level,
دوما
Egypt
في
was
تعاملها
always
مع نهر النيل
in dealing with the river
رائدة
Nile,
للدفع
a
بقواعد
pioneer in
ومبادئ
implementing the
القانون
principles and the
الدولي
rules of international law
ذات الصلة بالأنهار
pertinent
المشتركة
to the common rivers,
وفي مقدمتها
on top of which
التعاون
is
والتشارك
cooperation and
وغرض تجنب
consultation
التسبب
with the
في
purpose of
ضرر
avoiding
في
causing
إطار
any harm
إدارة
and damage
الموارد
within the framework
المائية
of managing
العابرة للحدود.
cross-border
وهي
water
القواعد
resources.
والمبادئ
And these
الحتمية
are the rules
وضمان
and
الاستخدام
principles that
المشترك
are inevitable
المنصف
for
لتلك
fair
الموارد.
joint use of these
وينطلق موقف مصر من
resources. And
اقتناعها
Egypt's stance
بأن
is
الالتزام
based on the
بروح
fact
التعاون
that
والتوافق
we are convinced
على
that
مساحات المصالح
cooperation
المشتركة
on
هو السبيل
joint
الوحيد
interests
لتجنب
is the
الآثار
only means to
السلبية
avoid the
التي قد
negative
تنتج
effects
عن الإجراءات
resulting
الأحادية
from
في أحواض الأنهار.
unilateral actions in
وهو
the
ما
river
أثبتته
basins.
أفضل
And this
الممارسات
was
الدولية
proved by the best
بما في
international
ذلك
practices, especially in Africa.
كما ينطلق موقف مصر
And
أيضا
Egypt's stance
من
is
كونها
based also
تتشارك
on the
ذات
fact
المسعى
that
للتنمية
it shares
مع
the same
مختلف الدول
effort to
النامية
achieve development with all developing
وتؤمن
countries.
بضرورة
And
تجنب
it
أي
believes the
تداعيات
importance of
سلبية
avoiding any
قد
negative
تنتج عن المشروع
effects
التنموي
resulting
في
from
دول
a development
نامية
project in a
تتأثر
developing
بها دولة
country
نامية
that might
أخرى
influence another
وتؤذيها على
developing
نحو
country and
لا
harm
يمكن
it
احتوائه.
in a manner that cannot be
ونحن نحلم بالسعي
contained.
المشترك
We are dreaming
لتعظيم
of
ثروة
joint
الحوض
efforts to optimize
ولينعم
the
بها
wealth
جميع
of the
دول الحوض
river Nile and the
وذلك
river
بدل من
basin,
التحرك فرادى
so that we would all the countries
على
benefit
نحو
from
غير
it
تعاوني
rather
بما
than
يسرع عن تنمية
competing and
المناخ
acting unilaterally
وقاصرة
in a way
في
that would
حجمها
lead to
ونطاقها
limited development in its
على نحو
impact and
يزعزع
in its
استقرارنا.
limit, in a way that would
إن رؤيتنا
destabilize
الراسخة
countries. Our
هي
vision is
العمل
always
معا
working
وغرض
together
التكريس
with the purpose
وتقاسم الازدهار
of sharing
بدل من التنافس
welfare
والتباعد
instead of competition
الذي
and
يؤدي إلى
fighting
تقاسم
over it,
الفقر
that
وعدم
would
الاستقرار
lead to division,
وإدراكا
sharing
منا
poverty and lack of
لخطورة
stability.
هذه القضية
Realizing the importance of this
وانطلاقا
issue
من أهميتها
and due to
الوجودية لنا
its importance
فإن
as it is
مصر
a matter of
تجدد
existence for us,
التزامها
Egypt is
ببذل
renewing
أقصى
its
جهودها
commitment to exert its utmost
لتسوية قضية
efforts
سد
to
النهضة
settle the issue of the
على النحو
Renaissance
الذي
Dam
يحقق
in a
مصالح
manner that would
جميع
achieve the interests of all
وتدعو
parties.
المجتمع الدولي
And it calls upon the
لتعزيز
international
وتضافر
community for uniting
تحقيق
the
هذا
efforts
الهدف
to
العام.
achieve this fair objective.
السيدات والسادة
Ladies and
الحضور
gentlemen,
أما على الصعيد الدولي
on the international
فقد
level,
حرصت مصر
Egypt
على
was
الانخراط
always
النشط
keen on actively
في كافة
participating
المحافل ذات
in
السبب
all international
بضرورة
events
تضافر
on
الجهود
water and to
لتنفيذ الهدف
unite
السادس
efforts to achieve
من
the
أهداف
sixth
التنمية
goal of the
المستدامة
sustainable development
على نحو
goals
متكامل.
in an integrated
واتصالاً
way.
بذلك
And in
تتطلع
relation,
مصر انتباهية
Egypt is focusing
مؤتمر الأمم
mainly
المتحدة
on
لمراجعة
UN
منتصف المدة للعقد
mid-term
الدولي
review conference for
المقرر
the
عقده في شهر
water
مارس 2023
part that would be held in 2023. This session of Cairo Water Week is considered to be one of the main events in preparation for this mid-term review for the water decade. And I would like to seize this opportunity to invite you to participate in COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh,
التي تستضيفها مصر
as it is hosted by Egypt in Sharm el-Sheikh next November.
والتي ستطرح مصر خلالها
And during which Egypt would launch the initiative of adaptation to water and the resilience.
والتي يتم التنسيق بشأنها
And we are coordinating in this regard with the International Organization for Meteorology.
أن تستضيف مصر
Egypt is
في هذا
due to
الإطار
host in this
مركزاً
framework
إفريقياً
an
للمياه
African Center
والتكيف
for
مع
water
المناخ.
and adaptation to climate change
وذلك لدعم القدرات
to support
الإفريقية
the
في
African
هذا المجال
capabilities in
المهم.
this field.
السيدات والسادة
Ladies and gentlemen,
أود في الختام
at the end,
أن أجدد الشكر
I would
لكم
like to renew thanks to you
في
and
مصر.
to welcome you to Egypt.
كما أعرب عن
I would
تطلعي
like also to express that we're looking forward to the success of Cairo Water Week and wish it would come up with results and outcomes capable of pushing the water agenda forward to achieve our development projects and to achieve the prosperity and the stability of the whole world. May God support your efforts with success. Thank you for your due listening.
والسلام عليكم
and peace
ورحمة
be
الله
upon you.
وبركاته.